Alright guys, what's up? Back with another video. Today, just happen to have a lot of motivation for making videos, so I'm knocking out several in one go. I know the lighting isn't too good, so please forgive me. Anyways, if there's any question you want answered specifically about learning, my specialty I would say more is in like learning skills and anything competitive, let me know, but of course I'll try to answer any question you have. So today's first question comes from Nas2342W. He just says Dutch. That's it. So I'm assuming you want to learn how to speak Dutch. Obviously, I have no other information based just on that. So I'm just going to give general language learning advice. I've been learning Japanese for 3 years. If you want to see my Japanese level, you can go, like, I posted a video speaking Japanese literally yesterday, so you can go watch that if you want. But anyways, when it comes to learning any language, truly the key to learning, because a lot of people are learning language backwards. So I'm going to start with that. Most people think the more you speak a language from the beginning, the more you speak a language, the more you try to write a language, the more you try to talk to people, the faster you're going to learn, the more you're going to learn. That's the conventional wisdom, is that if you want to learn a language, just speak that language a lot, okay? That is actually completely false. So what you actually need to do is input in the language, okay? So from the second you were born on this planet, you've been receiving input and you've been outputting. And what comes out of you, what's outputted from the way you move, the way you talk, everything, it's a direct result of all those inputs that came into you, okay? So when it comes to language, it's just the same. The input that you get, the language that you get, is exactly what's going to pop back out of you, given it enough time and exposure to it. So a lot of people think that I'm going to be able to speak right from the beginning, but what actually happens is when you start to understand the input that you receive, when you start to fundamentally understand a language, then you start to be able to output more easily. Okay, so many people start from outputting and speaking immediately, where actually what they need to do is input as much as they can, and that will eventually lead to outputting. Okay, now when you're inputting, you can't just go about this just raw. But I mean, you should just get raw input, so just listening to native speakers and whatnot. But you need to be a little smarter than that. Obviously, you need to build some kind of foundation within the language, whether you want to use like Anki decks to learn basic vocab, or you want to read basic short stories to learn basic vocab, but whatever you need to do to get your foot in the door of a language, and then you should be inputting and immersing the whole time while you're kind of studying on the side. So if you don't know what Anki is, Anki, go look up how to learn a language with Anki on YouTube. I recommend like Matt versus Japan if you really want to go get into it more. But yeah, his Japanese level is crazy good, and he basically only inputted. And again, one thing that people do with language that I think is wrong, again, is they try to like learn from a textbook. So they learn a piece of grammar in a textbook, and then what they try to do is either use that grammar, or they think since they learned that piece of grammar in a textbook, when they see it in a sentence, it's gonna suddenly make sense to them. And for very basic grammar, that may be true, but actually the better way to learn grammar, in my opinion, is to reverse it. So yeah, learning basic grammar, studying very basic grammar, so you actually kind of have some kind of like foundational understanding of the language is important. But beyond that point, when you see something you don't understand, when you're reading or listening, you hear something you don't understand, when you're immersing in your language, you don't have to look it up immediately. But if that same thing keeps popping up over and over and over again, then you should go and find contextual information about that piece of grammar or that word. So like when I was first learning Japanese, and even now when I'm learning Japanese, like sometimes I hear a word over and over and over again, and I keep thinking, I swear I've heard that word so many times, but I still don't know what it means. Well, that's when it's like primed for you to go and look up that word. Because usually once you've heard it over and over again and you keep wondering what it means, you look it up one time and then you're done. Okay, and then you understand it, like you usually remember it forever after that. But if you try to look up every single word that you don't understand, you're just going to keep forgetting over and over and over again, which is fine. And when you're reading, actually, just, if you're using like an e-reader or something like LingQ, for example, I don't want to get into too much detail on language learning, but you could be reading in Dutch, and if there's a word you don't know, you can just immediately click and get the definition. Like you can do this on Kindle too. So when you're reading, yeah, it's okay usually to like kind of click and just see every word you don't understand. But especially when you're listening or watching a TV show, if the same word or piece of grammar keeps popping up over and over again and you actually start to notice it, that's when I would go and research it. So yeah, inputting and then again, reverse learning. So instead of trying to learn grammar and then understand the language, try to first listen to the language. And then when you keep hearing the same thing over and over that you don't understand, then learn it. Okay. So kind of reversing it. Okay. Noticing. So the ability to notice things over and over again, focusing deeply when you're listening to the language. Okay. That's going to help you obviously improve more. So the more you notice, oh, they keep using this thing in this scenario, and the easier it is for you to go and find that information afterwards and pick it up immediately. The more you're kind of noticing, the more you're picking up on patterns, etc. And again, with language, it just kind of comes down to, in the end, your learning method for sure, but really just how long you actually spend engaged in that target language. Of course, input is the most important, but even outputting when needed. Okay, so whenever you feel like you're starting to get a good grasp on the language, you've got the basics down, then you can start outputting with people. And yeah, just spending as much time as you possibly can with that language is really what's going to cause you to improve. But again, people are usually misunderstanding. They think, I just need to speak as much as I can. Like that's going to somehow magically improve their speaking, which if you have enough input behind that speaking, yes, then your speaking will start to improve. But if you're not inputting and you're just outputting like once a week in like a language class or something, it's going to be, you're really not going to improve. You're going to be very slow improvement. It's going to feel stuck. And yeah, the language just won't come as natural. But if you listen to tons and tons of native input and you start to like really get into the culture by listening to what natives are listening to podcasts for natives and things like that. Obviously at the beginning, beginner content is going to be more helpful, easier to listen to content is more helpful, but the better and better you get, the more you can engage deeply with the language and really form a deep connection with the language and the people that speak that language. So yeah, that's my advice on language learning. I did make a video just the other day about speaking a second language and writing essays in a second language. So if you want more information, go check out that video. But again, I recommend like Mad versus Japan, for example, if you want more language learning advice. All right, on to the next question. This is from Olivia Alva. She says, I want to do either a cartwheel or a handstand for cheer. I also want to learn an L-sit for fun. So yeah, the main advice I'm going to give you, if there's anything you want to learn, it sounds like your skill is like, for example, cheer. If there's anything you want to learn, it's important to take small steps every day towards your goal. So yeah, if you have a lot of motivation, yeah, sure, go out for 5 hours and try to do a handstand for 5 hours. Like that's perfectly fine. But spreading that out 1 hour each day over 5 days and trying to keep your motivation high, okay, and not burning out at the beginning is really important. But just understanding that it takes time for your brain to change. So you can eventually do a handstand, you can do a cartwheel, you can do much, much more than that. You can become an Olympic champion. I truly believe that almost anyone can. Of course, part of it's going to come down to your genetics and your level of intelligence and things of that nature. But if you take the small steps every day and you keep engaging with whatever it is you want to do and you keep trying and you understand that it's not going to all come at once, it's going to take time, and you have to be patient and accept that you're going to suck at first at whatever you're doing. You're not going to be very good at it, but slowly over time, if you would keep engaging with whatever you want to learn, then you're going to be able to do it and you'll become able to do it. Again, just for this specific skill in general, like handstand, and anything where there's some risk of injury, I recommend always practice in a safe environment. Take time, because learning is a very long-term process. Becoming a master in any skill is a very long-term process. So it's important sometimes to take a little bit of time away from learning your skill directly and learn how to perform your skill safely so that you can perform it without being injured, and you can be because if you're injured, it's not efficient learning, right? You have to stop completely. So it's actually more efficient to make sure that you kind of got the prerequisites set for learning your skill. So making sure that you're in a safe environment, making sure that you know how to fall correctly if you mess up, making sure that you're doing the technique correctly. You know, taking the time to really understand that is going to help you in the long run when you're trying to improve at whatever skill it is you're doing. But yeah, just taking small steps every day, doing a little bit every day, you know, trying to build up a little strength. If you're trying to do an L sit, I don't know what an L sit is, but maybe it probably requires some level of strength. So, you know, being aware of all those things as you're going. So I think it's going to help you a lot. And also, you know, just for this, like really basic, if there's only just one specific thing you want to learn, just go on YouTube and type in how to do a cartwheel or how to do a handstand, and, you know, watch the video and then go and try and do it. And if you can't do it, try for a day or two. And then if you still can't do it, go back and watch the video again, and then try again, and then watch a new video, and just keep kind of immersing in the information, keep kind of seeing what you're trying to do and trying to apply that information. And eventually, given enough time and effort, you will 100% be able to do it, I promise you. So yeah, that's my advice for how to do a cartwheel, handstand, or an L-sit. So yeah, good luck with your journey in gymnastics or whatever cheer you're doing. So, all right guys, moving into the next question. You might notice it's actually a different day and I'm wearing something different. And that's because I didn't really like the way I answered this question originally, because I tried my best to give them advice, obviously. But a lot of people fall into this problem where they rely on their own logic to solve things. And like, yeah, I have this next question. Let me go ahead and read it so you understand. I want to know how I can get a boyfriend and start meeting more people. So the problem with this question is I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert in relationships, and meeting people, and you know, how to get a boyfriend and things like that. I am going to give you my opinion on how to learn how to do that, and I'll give you my opinion on this topic also, because I think maybe it can help you. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's 100% accurate or that I have a ton of experience in this specific scenario. And moving back to the point I was just making, a lot of people fall into this problem where what logically makes sense in their head at first glance for any specific scenario is actually kind of opposite to what ends up happening in reality. So I kind of caught myself doing that, and you're going to catch yourself doing this where you think your logic is correct, but maybe you don't have enough experience, you haven't really reached mastery in the specific thing you're talking about, and you end up giving bad advice, or you end up, you know, going down the wrong route, which is okay. Like, it's not a big deal. That happens to everyone. But I think as long as you know that the way you're logically thinking about things at the beginning, or when you just see something at first glance, usually is not entirely correct. So it's not good to trust that completely. So I want to make this disclaimer before I actually get into answering this question. And yeah, I'm going to talk about this in a future video as well, but I don't want this channel to turn into like relationship advice channel. So while I appreciate the question and I'm going to do my best to help you out, in the future, I think I'm just going to be answering questions relating to skills and learning anything competitive, because that's really where my expertise is, and I don't want to step outside and give somebody, you know, bad advice regarding that. Although in my experience, I have, like, when it comes to interpersonal relationships and meeting people and stuff, I have myself gone through kind of a growing experience of that as well, and I have inputted and learned a lot about this information and applied it myself. So I think on some level I do have an understanding of it, but again, I'm not an expert, and that's not really the point of this channel in particular. But yeah, let me get into trying to answer your question. So I want to know how I can get a boyfriend and start meeting people. Well, the first thing you need to do in any situation is probably the reason you're asking this question is because you haven't, one, been able to do that, or maybe you've done it and it just hasn't been the way you wanted, or it hasn't been successful. Well, the reason why it wasn't successful is probably because you didn't have enough information going into it, and you didn't have enough experience going into it, which is totally normal. But if you want to change your behaviors, you want to improve your situation, then you need more information. So in order to find that information, the easiest way really is just to go and type in your question on YouTube, or go and find books relating to your question, go and find articles relating to your question. Now, the quality of these sources is very important, okay? Whenever you're getting information from other people, you want to make sure that person is actually qualified to talk about that information. So what proof do they have that they actually have accomplished this goal and are successfully living out what they're saying? So I think that's important. It's also very important that you don't stick to just one source of information. You want to get your information from a variety of people, because even though like fundamental concepts of certain things are kind of the same, you know, just across your skill in general. The way people think about things is going to be different. So if you just listen to one person, you're only getting their perspective on the way they think about things. And even though the way they think about things is probably built off of a lot of other people's information, you don't want to just copy what they do, because you kind of just become like a weak clone of them, and you want to be able to make your own personal informed decision based on your own experience mixed with a variety of other sources, and then use that and see what works for you. And that's the information that's actually going to help you. So what you need to do is go find information about this from a variety of people, input in a lot of sources, and while you're inputting, while you're learning about this information, and by input again, I just mean finding information about whatever your question is, finding videos that discuss the topic that you're interested in, whether it's podcasts, videos, or whatever, and again, a variety of sources. So if you're only listening to women talk about this one thing, go and listen to some guys talk about it, okay? If you're only listening to guys talk about this one thing, well, go get some woman's perspective on it, okay? So get a variety of sources, and then as you're inputting, be applying this, okay? Be putting yourself in situations where you can meet new people. And, you know, if you maybe are trying to put yourself in situations where you need to meet new people, but you're finding it difficult, then you need to go deeper and ask yourself why. So I have a video on asking why, and also a video on like how to get unstuck when you're learning. I think those videos could help you. Again, I don't know your situation completely, but you know, at some point with whatever you're trying to do, you're going to run into a roadblock. You're going to run into a point where you think, I don't know how to proceed. I don't have enough information. Well, then go find contextual information about that specific roadblock, and then apply that information, see if it works. If it doesn't work, go watch the video again, go get more information, apply it again, okay? And it's through that process that over time, you're gonna refine your skills, you're gonna figure out what works for you in these situations, and you're gonna be able to get the desired result you want. Yeah, it's gonna take time. You have to build up slowly over time. So again, just inputting, applying that information, and repeating over and over again until you get the desired outcome. And if it doesn't work at first, don't throw it away completely. You know, go back, listen to the information again, try again, get some new information, try again. Eventually it's going to work out, and eventually it will unravel, and you'll be able to get what you want. So yeah, I hope that helps you, and I hope that answers your question. But yeah, again, for anyone watching, if you have a question, I do encourage you to make sure that question is related to learning a skill. I may answer more questions in the future about like relationship advice and things of that nature. But again, I think I'm just going to answer it not from my personal experience, but from just how I would go about learning how to do that, because that's really the point of this question. So I hope that helps you. And guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like, please subscribe. I also have a link where you can donate if you feel like this information was helpful to you. Please donate the value, whatever the value of this information, whatever you feel that was, please donate that. And yeah, I appreciate you guys, and thank you very much. Have a great day.